Good morning, family. I'm glad you are joining us today for worship. I'm Rahdorra, the Director of Journeys in Faith, Children, Youth, and Family Ministry here at University Park United Methodist Church. As we worship this morning, the video is being shown both on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. And from 10 to 11 this morning, we are responding to comments live on both platforms. The video will remain up for you to watch if you like. If you are joining us today for the very first time, welcome home. Or even if you are returning, welcome home. Until we are able to return home to our sanctuary for worship, you can find us here on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. For 125 years, University Park United Methodist Church has worked to be the hands, feet, and heart of Christ for our neighborhood and the world beyond. We continue to be committed to creating and strengthening authentic community and to supporting one another, not only through this pandemic, but in all of life. If you'd like to check in or just say hi, please do so by utilizing the comment box below. We'd love to hear from you. If you are new to worship, feel free to use the comment box to ask questions about the church, and someone from our staff will respond accordingly. Also, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up on YouTube, because the more people who subscribe, the easier we are to find online. So thank you in advance, and we appreciate your help in spreading the good news. Whoever you are, wherever you are this morning, whatever you believe, question, or doubt, we are delighted to have you with us in worship. When the pandemic is under better control and our community is back home in our church building, we'd love to have you join us there. So welcome to worship. We are glad you've joined us. I want to take this time to give a special thanks to George Gramer, our liturgist this morning, as he offers us the call to worship.
Good morning. If you have the text, please read with me our call to worship. God created the world, the stars and the sky, and God saw that it was good. God created all plants and life that grows, and God declared it good. God created all living creatures in the world, and God said, "It is good." We were created in the image of God, and God called us to care for the world. Let us celebrate God, our Creator. May we live into the image of God and care for all of creation as God cares for us.
Good morning. My name is Isaac Dunn, and I'm a member here at University Park and also lead our Pub Theology group. This morning I want to invite you into our moment of building beloved community, where I'll share a question with you and then we'll invite you to share your reflections in our live stream chat box. So my question this morning is, how are you seeking to learn more from others who are different from yourself? Whether that's through a conversation with a trusted friend, maybe it's through watching a movie or TV show that's written or directed by somebody from this particular community. Maybe it's through reading a book written by an author who is sharing their experiences of being in this community. But how are you seeking to learn more from others who are different from yourself? For me, I took a course at ILIF School of Theology back in the winter quarter that was titled Native American Cultures and Worldviews, that was taught by Dr. Tinker, who is an esteemed professor at ILIF and is also a member of the Osage Nation. And the reason why I decided to take this course is because I knew that there was much about Native American cultures that I just truly didn't know, and that most of what I maybe thought I knew probably wasn't very reliable information. And one of the things I really enjoyed about this course was that Dr. Tinker really helped me uncover a lot of the false narratives and imagery that I grew up around, and to really start to understand the great diversity among Native American nations here in the United States today, and also to understand and to see what are the common binds, what are the common bonds and worldviews that bring these communities together, even in that diversity. So, again, our question is, how are you seeking to learn from others who are different from you? I'd love to hear about other experiences of how what you're uncovering, what you're discovering, and maybe some resources that you have that maybe you could share with the wider community. Thanks.
Reading from the Holy Scriptures, Genesis 1, verses 1 through 5. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. May God bless the hearing and understanding of these words. Thanks be to God.
morning, University Park. My name is Shade, Nick Shade, and I take my communion juice shaken, not stirred. Calling all change agents, report to headquarters for your next mission. Good morning, change agents. How are you all doing today? Good? That's good. How many of you can raise your hands and say that your parents are happy with how clean your room is right now? Anybody? It's not many. Today's scripture verse, and today's lesson comes from Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. And in the second chapter, it says that the earth, at the beginning of time when God created everything, was formless and void. Now, another translation of that says that the earth was full of waste and emptiness. Now, when people talk about different translations or different interpretations of the Bible, what that means is that over the years, maybe as the Bible got translated through all these different languages, that the meanings and the orderings of the words may have changed over time. It's like that game of telephone. Have you ever played that with your friends? You might whisper into one friend's ear, "I want you to buy me a banana, please." And they whisper that, what they heard, into another friend's ear, and then they whisper it into another friend's ear, and so on and so forth. And by the time your last friend hears it, they might say that they thought that they heard you say, "I want a banana slug to eat." Now that's not exactly what you were talking about in the first place. And the same thing happens to stories, including the Bible, as we go through the years and we translate the Bible from one language to another, to another, to another. So when God says, "Let there be light," not only was he changing the earth from a formless void into the earth as we know it today, but also another translation would read that there was a lot of waste and emptiness in the world, and God got rid of that to make room for the rest of the things that God was going to create. The birds, the fish, the animals, plants, water, land, humans, you, me, all of us. And so what's really important in the story of Genesis was we have to get rid of the waste. We have to get rid of the things that get in the way so that God's work can be done. So, about those bedrooms. If you didn't raise your hand before, you may have noticed that I didn't either. Now, this is not my bedroom, but as you can see, I have a lot of mess over here. And that mess means that I can't do good things. I can't do God's work. I can't find my phone in all of this to call up a government official to ask them to make sure that the air and water in Colorado and in the nation stay clean. I can't read my Bible on top of all that mess. There's so many things I can't do because the waste is in the way. And the same thing happens outside. Sometimes animals can't live if there's waste in their homes, in the water, in the trees, in their habitat. And so what we all as change agents need to do is to get rid of the waste. Start in our bedrooms and maybe some other places in the house. But then once those are clean, look for trash outside and get rid of that waste so that God's work can be done in the world. Thank you all for listening to me, and I please would ask that you bow your heads in prayer with me. Heavenly Lord, we thank you for this beautiful creation of earth. We thank you for all of the wonderful things that you do and that we can witness and be in awe of your awesome power and intellect and wisdom. Please give us the strength to clean and get rid of the waste in all areas of our lives so that your will may be done. Thank you.
Hi there, U Park. I'm concluding my vacation today, and this coming week, I'll be spending time planning and coordinating our worship and program calendar for the coming year. Today, we have a remarkable guest preacher. Reverend Stephanie Price is an experienced church planter who's deeply passionate about building bridges between the rituals of the institutional church and a world crying out for healing and for hope. Stephanie is an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church, and she's the founding pastor of The Land, which is an outdoor congregation in Rahdorra, Colorado, that seeks to connect people with opportunities to care for one another as they care for creation. I've been part of the board at The Land for several years, and Stephanie has consistently inspired me to think about church in new ways. She is one of our annual conference's truly visionary leaders, and she's one of the pastors whose sermons and whose writing I turn to for inspiration. I am delighted that she was able to offer this morning's sermon.
Good morning, people of University Park United Methodist Church. My name is Reverend Stephanie Price, and I am the founding pastor at The Land, an outdoor congregation in Rahdorra, Colorado, that's dedicated to connecting with and caring for creation. Today I will be sharing with you a message from The Land, which is 10 acres of undeveloped prairie lands where we worship under the sanctuary of 2 canopy tents that are right behind me. I'll be trying to share some pictures and footage as we go throughout the service, but I welcome you into this sacred space with me, and I hope that you can enjoy both the beautiful sounds of nature as the meadowlarks fly behind us. You might see some antelope off in the distance. We've seen a few fawns with their mothers crossing by lately, as well as then the sounds that are less peaceful and less about nature, such as the airplanes that may or may not be flying above me today. We're quite close to Buckley Air Force Base, and so there's all of this beautiful cacophony of sound that reminds us that we are a people called out to be in the world and to see the world as our parish. This message today was the first message that I shared in a series that's taking the people of the land across the horizon of this summertime in this time of pandemic, but it's a sermon series on creation. And when I began the sermon series, I had planned it about 6 months ago, and I was definitely anxious about the ways in which what I had planned 6 months ago would tie into what's happening today in the midst of a pandemic and in the midst of so many important cultural conversations around how we can create a more just and equitable society. The creation story meets us in the middle and speaks to us in a new way about how we are called not only to look back on the story of creation, but to move forward into an evolution of love. And so today I invite you to join me in this story as we enter into the first chapter of Genesis through the first 5 verses. In the beginning, God created the sky and the earth. The earth was empty and had no form. Darkness covered the ocean, and God's Spirit was moving over the water. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, so he divided the light from the darkness. God named the light day, and the darkness night. Evening passed, and morning came. This was the first day. It is fascinating that the biblical creation story begins with this great ordering, a segregation of the world into spaces of light and spaces of darkness, bound by containers of felt experience that we ourselves have organized into the concept called time. About this great ordering, today's commentator writes that inasmuch as the sun had not yet been created, this verse probably refers to a divine manipulation of light as a creative act. The sun, when created, augmented the already existing light. Israelites believed light, often a symbol of life and salvation and characteristic of the presence of God, was fundamental to the creation, pushing back the darkness, made life possible. Creation begins with this scriptural framework of pushing back the darkness and making life possible. We understand the organization unfolding in the first verse of Genesis as an act of creating space for the presence of light and life. Our witness of this intentional pushing back of darkness to allow safe space for the proliferation of new life offers us fertile soil to discern our own imaginative work in a time marked by the awakening of privileged minds to pains of those violently and chronically oppressed by social constructs of whiteness. Specifically, the ways in which our own ordering within the confines of American empire is exhausting the full expression and collaborative creativity that was initiated in the original Great Ordering. It is the interpretation of this great ordering, the organization design, because of the meaning we have inserted into this narrative landscape, that will be the focus of today's message. Specifically, the ways in which our own ordering within the confines of American empire is exhausting the full expression and collaborative creativity that was initiated in this original great ordering. Together, we seek to identify the places where we find ourselves pushing back darkness in order that light may enter the public life of a new day. Likewise, we seek awareness of normalized practices that block our collective consciousness from consequences of systems empowered when we reverse this original divine demonstration of great ordering. We hold space in a muddled gray area to explore communal patterns that we have pulled the presence of light so far into the darkness of the night that it has become unknowable even to our searching eye. I step softly this morning into this gray area with the weight of my own experience as a clergy serving embodied as a white woman in a culture that overtly prefers masculine presence in all forms of public leadership. And I am aware as my whiteness allows me to be, that the construct of whiteness provides the privilege to manage, to negotiate, to manipulate the system in ways unavailable to my sisters, clergy sisters of color. In my whiteness, I can dance around, sidestep, entertain lessons so generously offered by the patriarchal systems that construct them. I can laugh them off and reclaim my position when it is assumed that I am the secretary, when I am the officiant. I can delete emails instructing me how to dress or speak or lead a congregation. I can zone out during conversations offering me helpful insight into what I need to know or how I need to behave. I can silently rage from the cumulative burn of being born with a voice that remains regularly unheard. And I can turn and walk back into the room without consequence because I am categorized as white. I am aware of my blindness even as I am aware that I am not aware of all that this blindness blocks out. I am aware that my blindness results in a weight that others carry, just as I am aware that I know little, if anything, of what it feels like to carry this weight. I'm sharing my experience of being in the world not as a means to shame any person or group or to receive any response of sympathy. I am sharing my experience of being white in the world because over these past weeks it has been incredibly helpful in understanding the ferocity and relentlessness of the protesters who march, kneel, and lay their lives out for the possibility of change. It has not been the statistics, the facts, or even video footage that ultimately align me with the uphill climb toward equality. It has been the weight I carry within a patriarchal culture, so incessant, so powerful, that it pulls every bold prophetic voice into the darkness without even having been aware it was doing so, without ever feeling the fight or carrying the weight in the journey of pushing and pulling so many voices into places unseen, unheard, unknown. My point is not that my walk, my weight, is the same as those who embody black and brown bodies. My point is that because I have lived under the radar of an awareness constructed by those in power, I am aware of my own unawareness. I am aware of my blindness even as I am aware that I am not aware of all that this blindness blocks out. I am aware that my blindness results in a weight that others carry, just as I am aware that I know little, if anything, of what it feels like to carry this weight. Perhaps, most importantly, I am aware that my own liberation is bound up in the liberation of all people. And I'm aware that I do not have enough awareness to lead. But I do have enough awareness to know that I must be willing to learn. I am confessing that the creation story has been redacted and retold in ways that heighten humans, that manufacture and idolize white bodies, until all we hold is our own creation story as a heretical mastery over the world. And I am learning that white communities are trying to offer answers to questions that aren't even being asked. That we are legitimizing, criticizing, and advising cultures on experiences that we have never experienced, let alone that we confess that these experiences even truly exist. And I am confessing to the intentionality in my own grasping of ignorance about these other ways of knowing, other ways of learning that lead us toward the darkness of our own arrogance. I am confessing that the creation story has been redacted and retold in ways that heighten humans, that manufacture and idolize white bodies, until all we hold is our own creation story as a heretical mastery over the world. And I believe that if the protests are to add up to something grander than the sum of their parts, we must all become aware that there are limits to our awareness. We must all posture ourselves in an uncomfortable openness, ready to learn. If we are to survive, or more importantly, if we are to evolve toward any form of spiritual aliveness, we must embrace the awareness is the primary ingredient required for becoming and remaining spiritually alive, a status identified by our communal presence in the light. This is the wisdom of the creation story, an illumination of our dependence on a divine wind, creating space for light, and an indebtedness to all the life forms which adapted before us to shift and transform, creating the most peculiar, specific circumstances that gift us with life. In Anne Duran's book, Cosmos, she explains that the dawn of awareness occurred with the first one-celled organisms in the ocean, microbes, using their tiny flagella to swim toward the sunlight, dappling the surface of the ocean, while others sought refuge in the deep. These one-celled microbes may not have known much, but they did know some things. Go to the light. Oops, too much light. Find somewhere dark. When you think about it, Duran writes, the defining quality of being alive is the ability to adapt to your environment. And you can't do that very well without being aware on some level. The awe invoked by Duran's scientific account of the dawn of awareness arises from the fact that our very lives are indebted to the awareness and response of these one-celled microbes' relationship with light. Humans are a species as a result of billions of living, evolving organisms becoming aware and responding over billions of years. Duran writes, no one looking at microbial mat 3 billion years ago could have predicted that the one-celled organisms of life on Earth would evolve into you. That's what happens when living things and environments interact over the course of eons, making it possible for smaller entities to unite and evolve. we are the inheritors of an evolution hallmarked by fluidity and humility, an unplanned succession dependent on the awareness of our relationship to something greater than ourselves within the limitedness of our created constructs. This is the wisdom of the creation story, an illumination of our dependence on a divine wind, creating space for light, and an indebtedness to all the life forms which adapted before us to shift and transform, creating the most peculiar, specific circumstances that gift us with life, light and life, the two elements of creation, awareness and response, the essence of being alive. I wonder if we were to contemplate the possibility that the construction of whiteness is an attempt to create our own world, to control and contain a story belonging to the cosmos, if this would raise the walls of our social constructs enough to see other worlds existing around us, other stories holding a truth different than our own. In the most recent special edition of Time magazine, there was a centerfold that featured the most gorgeous picture of a cloud-filled sky paired with this explanatory blurb. Considering today's advanced technologies, you might think scientists would have a firm grip on weather phenomena, but they don't. The process of an everyday lightning strike is still not fully understood. Some phenomena are still being explored, such as strange electrical events in the upper atmosphere that scientists called sprites and jets. Even the study of clouds is ongoing. 12 new types of them were recognized by the World Meteorological Association's authoritative International Cloud Atlas in March 2017. One reason? Everyday folks armed with cell phone cameras are helping scientists discover ever more novel and unusual atmospheric events. I wonder if we were to contemplate the possibility that the construction of whiteness is an intent to create our own world, to control and contain a story belonging to the cosmos, if this would raise the walls, if this would take the pictures, if this would hold up the story, that there are other truths that matter as much as our own. Duran reminds us that this is the essence of emergence. Tiny units of matter operating collectively to become something much more than themselves, to enable the cosmos to know itself. The inception of the cosmos as held in the creation story in Genesis is a rich reminder that this is not a story for one person or for one community or for one country to hold. It is a foreshadowing of the coming of the kingdom, in which hierarchy is flattened and white communities step down from a construct intent on making the story of creation all its own. It is a story of wonder and awe, of searching and learning, of becoming aware of all that we are not aware of. It is a great ordering, where many hearts hold many ways of knowing, and the only extinction is of the competition for a place in the creation story. Would you pray with me? Holy One, we are called to join you in the evolution of creating spaces of light that life may enter. and we are blind to our own darkness. We have grown so accustomed to the room we are in, we think we no longer need to see where we are going. But God, in this place, we trample on the lives of other people. And now, God, we ask that we might hear their voices, that light might enter through the cracks, and that we might step down from the stories we've created, the blindness that we've embraced, and the closed rooms that we've called home. Allow us to be free, God. Allow us to understand and know that liberation is only possible when all people have a place in this story. Amen. I'm going to invite us into a time of centering prayer at the Land. We gather on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. and we see our gathering really as a time of recentering on the question, what is the most important thing? It's easy to go throughout our weeks being pulled in this direction and that direction until we no longer know the straight line that we intended to walk on. And so in this pastoral time of prayer, I'm going to invite us to participate in a tradition that has become familiar at the Land, and that is a recentering prayer and meditation. And so if you would like to just, as I'll just confess that when I am watching services online, I am doing many other things, usually cooking or cleaning or planting or not driving, but that's probably the limit of it. So I'm going to invite you, if you are like me and you are busy multitasking, just to take a moment and to find a space where you feel comfortable, whether that's sitting or lying down for a minute or even standing in place. But to begin to rest your eyes and to just notice the feeling of being still on purpose. That it's an intentional act to center ourselves in the presence of God. And that this world is formed in a landscape that distracts us continually from this task of being still and knowing our God. And I'll invite you, if you feel comfortable, to begin to take a few deep breaths. Breathing in through your nose, filling your lungs, holding it for a moment before releasing through your mouth. And then just quickly check in with your body, feeling your feet on the floor, the support of your legs, the strength of your spine, the weight on your shoulders, the tension in your face. And just begin to release that. And anchor yourself in the act of your breath. Breathing in and out as a way of creating space for the Holy Spirit to be present. Exhaling your anxieties, your judgments, your bitterness, your expectations, so that in your heart space, in each inhale, you might hold more joy, more peace, more compassion, more empathy. Holy Spirit, we struggle to be still. We struggle to breathe. We struggle to evolve. We confess to you, God, all of our unknowing. We surrender to you, God, all of the ways that we have fallen short of our call to care for one another and to care for creation. So God, in this moment, we replace ourselves as created beings, created by you, as animals among many. And we remember ourselves in a story of evolution that we are indebted to. In a process, God, of divine redemption in which we have discovered breath even when we forget to breathe. And so, God, today we breathe in your love. We breathe in your light. We breathe in your hope beyond all reason. That we might answer the question, what is the most important thing? And that the answer might be you. All-loving presence, eternal grace, God of evolution, pulling us towards the spaces of light and the proliferation of life. We welcome you into our space. We invite you, God, to carry us in the moments and hours and days to come. May we be a blessing in a world of burden. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Flomberg-Rollins. I'm the church administrator, and I have a few announcements for everyone today. First of all, we have a wonderful opportunity this summer to team up with Stephanie Price and The Land. The Land exists to connect with and care for creation. As the pastor of The Land, Reverend Price seeks to combine food, faith, and farming as a form of worship. We have sponsored a plot on the land to tend to and care for this summer. If you'd like to join the movement and make a difference during this pandemic, please contact Rahdorra Paris Woods to sign up and ask any questions. Secondly, we have hymnals coming up. We are ordering new hymnals. They will be these Worship and Song green books. We're looking for donations of $12 each for these books. If you're interested in contributing, you can send us a check or you can donate online. If you would like a name inscribed to dedicate the book, please send us a note with that name and message. And if you have any questions, you can contact me for this. And finally, our pastor, Reverend Andy Dunning, will be returning to service next Sunday, July 12th. For the past couple of weeks, he's been on vacation, relaxing and recharging, and we're excited to have him back. We're also very grateful to Reverend Kathy Coble, Rahdorra Paris Woods, and Reverend Stephanie Price for sharing their sermons with us over the last 3 weeks. Thank you all so much. And like I said, Reverend Andy will be returning next Sunday, July 12th for service. That is all I have today. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you all have a great week, and we will see you next Sunday.
People of University Park, thank you for inviting me to be with you in worship in this virtual world. I hope that you have experienced a moment of peace, a word of comfort, and a call to action. May you go knowing that you are beloved and that your gifts are exactly what this world needs. Go in peace to work for peace. Amen.